morning.
We are on our way to where?
We are heading to Independence Hall. I'm so excited. Last week we saw the Declaration of Independence in person, and now we're going to where those very, very brave men signed it. Because I say brave men because if they'd have been caught, or if they'd have lost the war, should I say, if they hadn't died in battle, they would have been hung, drawn, and quartered for treason. I love driving in a city. I grew up in a big city, and that's where I learned to drive, and I just love the energy.
Clearance.
Oh, that's a very low clearance. Are we going to get in then?
I don't know. Let's see.
This garage has a 6'6" clearance, and I think with our antenna we're 6'8" in the truck. So Kevin's letting the air out of the airbags at the back so we can get in this parking lot.
We are just starting a walking tour. We've parked at the Independence Hall parking, and it's going to be about $20 to park here. Where are we going to go today?
Well, we are actually using the GPS My City app, which I will put a link to in the description below, and it allows you to create your own walking tours or use theirs. We are going to do the Old Town Philadelphia today, which obviously takes in Independence Hall, Liberty Hall, Benjamin Franklin's house. Those are some of the places we're going to visit, and some others today. We are really going to do a historic tour of Philadelphia. This is like a shadow on the foundations of what was the president's home, but I'm not sure whether it was Washington's home. But who else's home would it be at Independence time? It's got to have been Washington's home, hasn't it? It's kind of cool the way they've done it though.
So tell us about it.
I don't know anything about it. This is sort of so sad. I'm not quite sure. Oh, here we go. Let's go and look at this. If you're interested in supporting our channel, click on the link in the description to find our Patreon page. To think what George Washington and John Adams both walked around here.
Yes, they've taken the old plans and they've put walls up similar to the location of where they were.
This is the archaeological dig that they did here. They did this dig back in 2007. This is where they found remnants of the house and the original foundations of the house from 1790. This is the Christ Church Cemetery. This is still an active cemetery. Members of the church can still be buried here, but some of the most important members of Philadelphia society are buried here.
There's even 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence that are buried here as well.
That is amazing. And of course, most importantly, Benjamin Franklin. Not all the signers of the Declaration of Independence are remembered with such vigor, I suppose the word is, but this man, Benjamin Rush, MD, was the father of American psychiatry, and he was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. There are over 4,000 people buried here. That is a lot of people in a very small space.
There are members of the Continental Army buried here from the Revolutionary War and also the War of 1812, and veterans all the way up until World War II. And to this day, there are still members of the church that can be buried here.
Here we have 2 major historical figures. George Ross served in the Continental Congress from 1774 to 1777. He was 46 years of age when he signed the Declaration of Independence. And then here we have Joseph Hughes, who also was a delegate to all 5 presidential congresses, a member of the Continental Congress from 74 to 77, and then again to 79. Again, another signer of the Declaration of Independence. This grave here that looks like a pedestal is the grave of General Jacob Morgan. Morgan was involved in the Battle of Princeton and the Battle of Monmouth. We're not entirely sure who keeps these beautiful graves the way they are, but this is the grave of Revolutionary War hero right here. And as you can see from these photographs, there are others that have been so beautifully maintained, and they died in the 1800s. So there's no way they still have family that come and maintain these graves. So we're going to ask the young man at the front and find out who does. Benjamin Franklin was, for all intents and purposes, the most famous printer in Philadelphia, and David Hall, buried here, was his printing partner. That was the first occupation that Benjamin Franklin ever had when he worked for his brother. He ran away from his brother and came to Philadelphia and set up his own printing works. This stone here, quarried in England, is being used as the marker for Charles Mason. Charles Mason, along with Jeremiah Dixon, were two English surveyors who used nothing but the stars above to create the Mason-Dixon line. The plot was donated by Benjamin Franklin, who apparently was his good friend. And finally, we have the grave of Benjamin and Deborah Franklin. Deborah was his wife. Benjamin outlived her for many, many years. And just to the left here, we have the grave of his daughter, who was Sarah Bach. Sarah was hugely important during the Revolutionary War. She did a vast amount of fundraising to raise funds for the Continental Army. As you can see behind me, you can take a photograph of Benjamin Franklin's gravestone without coming into the cemetery and paying the $5 right here. Yeah. But that being said, just to be able to view the graves of other signers of the Declaration of Independence, or men that bravely fought during the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the War of 1812, and World War II, it is well worth $5 to come and pay your respects. Pennsylvania had a massive Quaker population, and the original Quaker houses were built in the 1700s. However, this house was built between 1803 and 1811, and it was designed to hold around 1,200 people. Three most prominent women Quakers, Lucretia Mott, Susan B. Anthony, and Alice Paul, who all worked tirelessly for women's rights. Susan B. Anthony once said, "We ask no special privileges. We ask justice, we ask equality, we ask that all the civil and political rights that belong to the citizens of the United States are granted to women." Pennsylvania was the first planned city in America. This street here is one of the original streets laid out by William Penn. He designed this city whilst in London. He was not even here, and he designed it in the grid system.
We are at Betsy Ross's house.
You often think of Betsy as this woman who just sat in a corner like this show here, creating this flag from nothing. But she was actually a very famous upholsterer, and she did design our first ever flag. Just like other Revolutionary War heroes, Betsy Ross would have been tried for treason had she been caught creating the flag of the United States of America. Why is the flag on the floor? Well, back in Betsy Ross's day, there was no rules of conduct for an American flag. In accordance with today's rules regarding the American flag, there is cloth underneath the flag, so therefore it is not touching the floor. This is Betsy's actual home right here. Betsy and none of her husbands ever owned a house. Betsy actually rented rooms in this house from Hannah Lithgow, who was a widow. Like most workers during the Revolutionary War, Betsy became quite poor when nobody really wanted to deal with upholstery, etc. So she took a contract just on a whim from the new government to create flags. She was also famous for making bullets. Now this is old Philly. I mean, this is, it's not just these monumentous properties like Betsy Ross's house or where Benjamin Franklin is buried. These properties are quite old, and now we are going to go and visit the oldest known residential street that is still intact, and it's here in Philadelphia.
We are at Elfrith's Alley, an exceptional collection of early American structures built in the 1720s to the 1830s. The alley contained the homes and shops of diverse artisans and later working class immigrants lived here. Residents began preservation efforts in 1934. Always on your side. Always on your side. 'Cause we do it right. Any place, anytime, we're always there. Rain or shine.
Benjamin Franklin was quoted as saying, "An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure." And these guys worked incredibly hard to keep this and preserve it. It is absolutely beautiful. The FA you see up here is for the Fire Association. The Fire Association was a volunteer fire service. It was the first service of its kind in America, and it was started by Benjamin Franklin. These builders are actually doing what's called repointing. They are replacing all of the grout in the houses here. This one almost looks like it's not been as well preserved, but it is very, very cool. We're now in Bladen's Court, which is actually a little younger than the original alley we were just in. And I just spoke to the lady who owns and lives in this home. She's lived here about a year. She says that she loves the idea that she is taking care of a national park land when she's out in her garden. And she said that, you know, it has its challenges, owning a home that was built in the 1740s. But overall, she absolutely loves it. And she does say that she has some mice, but other than that, she said it's wonderful. This small alley originated between 1749 and 1752, and it just served these two properties whose owners wanted outside access to their own backyards. Isn't it beautiful? Welcome to Christ Church. This is one of the most historic churches in the United States. It was founded in 1695 as the first Church of England parish in Pennsylvania. Christ Church is famous today for its many connections to the American Revolution. This current building was completed in 1744. The steeple was added in 1754, and then it was the tallest structure in the 13 colonies. This communion table has been in constant use since 1788. This right here is the presidential pew. Not only was this the pew for the Washington family during his time as president when Philadelphia was the capital of the United States, this was also used by President John Adams. And then during his second visit to the United States, it was used by the Marquis de Lafayette. I am sitting in pew 12, and here worshipped Betsy Ross in 1777. Right here we can see the coat of arms of George III, who was in power when this church was first established. While the Liberty Bell might be the most famous bell in the United States, this is actually the oldest bell. It was cast in 1702 at the Whitechapel Foundry in London, also where the Liberty Bell was cast 50 years later. This bell was lost for over 200 years as it had been hung in the St. Peter's of Philadelphia. Now it is returned to Christ Church. So like we said, even though we are in Philly, this is downtown historic Philly. So a lot of these houses are still the bones of the original properties. But right here we have the first post office of the United States. Benjamin Franklin was the first postmaster general. Right next to the original post office is the printing office and bindery. Benjamin Franklin printed one of the first newspapers here. He also was very famous for bookbinding.
This is an old street right to his house.
As we said, Franklin came here as a child from Boston. He was probably only about 14, 15 when he ran away from home. He actually ran away from an apprenticeship with his brother, who had put him into an apprenticeship when he was 12 years of age. This was the street where all the tradesmen worked. What is quite hilarious are all of these white stones you see over here and here. These are the markers for privies.
This framework here represents the site of the house that Benjamin Franklin built for his grandson, and it housed the printing press on the other side of the carriageway, and on this side was the foundry for the type. All that's left is this foundation.
This skeletal structure represents Benjamin Franklin's house, which, as you can see, the carriageway did not go through. It stopped right here and probably went to one side, or this was the end of the courtyard. The Liberty Bell was originally in Independence Hall, and that's where it stayed. It actually ended with 2 cracks. The first crack wasn't so bad, and they were able to widen it and mold, and it was still able to ring. But after the second crack in 1847, the bell was irreparable. You could no longer ring it, and it was removed from the steeple in Independence Hall. Now the bell you hear ringing just a few seconds ago is the Centennial Bell, which was put up in 1876. The Centennial Bell weighs 13,000 pounds, which is 6 times larger than the original Liberty Bell that once sat there.
Right up here at the top of Liberty Hall is the brick that they pulled out to find the glasses in the movie National Treasure. And we're here at the second stop for National Treasure. The third stop is going to be in Boston.
This is an artistic depiction of Old City Hall to the left there, Independence Hall, which is all the way in the center, and then Congress Hall, built as the county courthouse. That's Congress Hall, Independence Hall, where they signed the Declaration of Independence. And then that was City Hall.
All right, during the movie, they're up there at the cupola, and they're looking across over here to these chimneys right there.
And what I thought they were looking at a building, but they're not.
They're looking at these chimneys.
They're looking at these chimney stacks, and the gentleman assures us there is no brick
He
there.
says no, he says that's where the glasses were.
Yeah.
I will be your guide through Independence Hall this afternoon. I get to take people through the birthplace of the United States. A lot of people are still coming here because of some ideas that came from a piece of paper that was signed inside this building in 1776. These notions of all men being created equal and that you all have unalienable rights. It means no one can take them away from you.
Here we go, into Independence Hall. This is the tour. It's a lot of people, so we'll probably just take some stills. As you can see, lots of people.
Folks, welcome inside of Independence Hall. The question that a lot of people ask me when they come into this building: what's real in here? This is real. It's actually been here since this building was constructed between 1732 and the early 1750s. So that means even that hand railing that's coming all the way down to the top floor, where the governor of Pennsylvania would be meeting with his council, wrapping all the way down here. This has been here ever since the mid-1700s. It has met every single person who's ever come in through those doors. Today, that's us, as we are stepping back in time to 1776. Back then, it was Benjamin Franklin. I'm going to stop calling this building Independence Hall. Nobody knew it as that then. This is the Pennsylvania State House. It is the government building for the colony of Pennsylvania. And along with the other 12 American colonies, Pennsylvania is part of the British Empire. So as you folks come in here today, you are not just Pennsylvania citizens. You are subjects of the British Empire.
God save the king.
God save the king. There you go. Remember that for when we go into the next room. There's going to be a good reason for that. But as we're here, and especially as we're getting closer to 1776, people coming in here like Franklin have something on their minds. A word that we still find in the Declaration of Independence. Liberty. And specifically, how do we protect liberty? That story begins through this archway and in the first room on our left. You have all walked into the Supreme Court of the colony of Pennsylvania. So the authority in this room you see up on the wall behind the judge's bench, where the judge was established. I'd like to introduce you to the Pennsylvania Assembly Chamber. So this is where the lawmakers we've chosen to come in here for working. When in May of 1775, they moved upstairs because a new group of people was borrowing this room. They call themselves the Continental Congress. They are representatives from those 13 American colonies. So joining us in this room now are people we might expect to be part of this story. John Adams is in this room. Benjamin Franklin is in this room. Thomas Jefferson is in this place with us.
We are heading up to the public gallery in Constitution House. This is the room where John Adams was inaugurated as the second president of the United States, with Thomas Jefferson as his vice president.
Senate up here. While they're here, displays such as the carpet are being produced. The crest of the U.S. in the middle, and then the crest of the original 13 states around it. Circle for unity and chain for strength. The bottom clasp is a liberty cap for freedom and a balance for justice. You try to get the point going of how the country is supposed to work.
There are two. There is Pat's, and then there is Gino's. We went to Gino's because this is not the chopped steak. So let's go see if we know how to order.
Stepping out into the daylight, you know I'm ready for a good time. Ooh.
Here we are, Gino's in South Philly. I got a Whiz Wit and a Diet Coke, and you got?
I got a mushroom provolone with and some fries and a Diet Coke.
Okay, so the Whiz is the bomb. If you know what Whiz is, then you know what I'm talking about. It's great. And you got the mushroom. How was it?
The bread is soft, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting it to be crunchy, but the flavor's great.
Every Philly cheesesteak I've ever eaten started right here, and you can just feel the history of this place. Oh my gosh, and you can taste the history today.
You cannot taste history.
You can taste history here.
No,
yes?
you cannot.
Especially if you get
Come and get a
Whiz.
cheesesteak, guys. Come and
Gotta
get a cheesesteak.
that's right.
Okay, he's done. He's done. He's cut off. You are cut off. We went to Gino's, but Pat's has the historic sign and is the official originator of the Philly cheesesteak. We hope you've enjoyed our tour of historic Philadelphia.
You know I'm so high.
Join us next week as we go to one of the most important sites of the Revolutionary War, Valley Forge.
Until then, we'll see you on the trail.